我宣布
The 9,870th meeting of the Security Council is called to order. The provisional agenda for this meeting is United Nations Peacekeeping Operations, Police Commissioners. The agenda is adopted. I now give the floor to Mr. Faisal Shaka.
President, I thank you for convening this briefing. I'm pleased to be here with Under Secretary General Mr. Lacroix, Assistant Secretary General Mr. Zoreif, Police Commissioner Bizimingo from our peacekeeping operation in Central African Republic, and Senior Police Advisor Mingsu from our mission in Cyprus. Today, I am proud to sit before you as the United Nations Police Advisor. The United Nations Police make a real difference in the lives of people where we are deployed, helping those countries lay the foundations of sustainable peace and development. Although our footprints may have become smaller today than when I last briefed you in November 2023, the United Nations Police tasks and responsibilities remain still complex. This includes operational support and capacity building from our counterparts to support the development of host state policing capacities and institutions that underpin long-term stability and the rule of law. Excellencies, allow me to highlight some challenges facing the United Nations Police as well as to reflect on our accomplishments. As is true for peace operations as a whole, the challenges that the United Nations Police face continue to be impacted by our relationships and the levels of trust between our missions, host state governments, institutions, and host populations. Increasingly, we see that maintaining trust entails addressing mis- and disinformation, targeting United Nations peace operations, and facilitating compliance with status of force agreements. Enhancing performance is an integral part of the action of peacekeeping, both A4P and A4P Plus initiative, and part of the requirements of Security Council Resolution 2436 of 2018, which emphasizes the need to improve performance of all United Nations civilian and uniformed personnel. To that end, if we want our United Nations Police to have the necessary knowledge and skills to perform such complex tasks, we must jointly invest in their training. That is why the Police Division and the DPAT Integrated Training Service initiated the development of the United Nations Police Commanders Course, or what we call UNPCC, the crown jewel in the United Nations Police Training Architecture, which has been convened 6 times to date around the globe. At the same time, I expect United Nations Police leadership in the field to continuously identify lessons and share them with the Police Division, so we can be guided by the member states, ensure that the United Nations Police remain fit to respond to the evolving global peace and security challenges, both today and tomorrow. With respect to accomplishments, the United Nations Police have continued to improve the lives of the people where we serve. In accordance with the mission mandates, the United Nations Police help reinforce the capacities of their host state policing counterparts and provide assistance to their operations, including protecting civilians under threat of physical violence, utilizing the gender-responsive, evidence-based, and field-tested approach to policing anchored in the United Nations Strategic Guidance Framework for International Policing, or what we call SGF. For example, in Central African Republic, the United Nations Police focused on enhancing security and protecting civilians, including extensive training for the internal security forces with a particular emphasis on human rights, gender-based violence, and security in preparation for upcoming elections. Concurrently, the mission supported the deployment of over 1,400 internal security forces personnel nationwide through various capacity building initiatives and training programs, along with the construction and rehabilitation of police facilities. In South Sudan, UNMISS police with specialized posts from the United Nations standing police capacity, elaborated an integrated strategic election security support plan, providing essential technical advice to enhance security preparations for future elections in the country, both by the UNMISS Police and South Sudan National Police Service. In support of the Women, Peace and Security agenda, UNMISS Police supported the capacity building of Sudan women police officers to build their skills to assume leadership roles. And in ABA, the UNISFA Police, in support of the mandate of the rule of law support strategy, continue their work with the community protection committees to manage law and order processes, focusing on protection of civilians and peaceful coexistence between Dinka and Masiria communities, and greater safety and security amidst the continuation of violence involving the Dinka and Twink Dinka communities. This includes ongoing advocacy for women's participation in alignment with the Women, Peace and Security agenda. The United Nations Interagency Task Force on Policing, which is co-chaired by Department of Peace Operation and the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, continues to make progress in developing joint guidance and police standards building on the strengths of the various United Nations entities. This work was recognized by the General Assembly in its resolution 77/241. Further, at headquarters, we endeavor to strengthen trilateral collaboration, including through the biennial United Nations Chiefs of Police Summit, UNCOPS. The fourth UNCOPS was successfully convened last June and contribute to reinforcing cooperation between police contribution countries and Secretariat in the area of policing, and including pledges of the personnel, expertise, and other resources. Excellencies, to help us achieve our goal, we would appreciate your further support, the ability to lead, influence, and develop other stakeholders through strengthening police professionalism and integrity, establishing administrative systems, and drafting legal and policy frameworks to support police development, and increasingly seen as a critical success factors in United Nations policing mandates. In addition to possessing sound leadership and management skills, United Nations police commanders must be operationally adept and knowledgeable of the how of United Nations policing as set out in the Strategic Guidance Framework for International Policing. We need your support in ensuring that such officers, including highly skilled women and Francophone officers, are made available from member states. Let me close by thanking the Security Council for this opportunity to speak, and by reiterating that the sustained leadership and continued political engagement of member states are indispensable for the success of the United Nations policing. I thank you for your attention.
I thank Mr. Faisal Shaka for his statement. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Bizi Mungu.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor for me to share with you the recent developments as well as the priorities and the challenges the MINUSCA police is facing. And I will focus my statement on the security aspects, in particular those aspects which are linked to the UNPOL function. Let me start with the recent developments. And here I must say, first and foremost, that the year 2025 is an election year in Central Africa. And therefore, this means that the security situation will certainly be related to the elections. We have already been witnessing demonstrations, peaceful so far, in the run-up to the elections. And in this context, UNPOL will continue playing its role of protection of civilians, and doing this impartially by extending the support to the internal security forces in Central Africa, the ISF. In addition to the physical security, we will contribute towards the prevention of election violence, in particular violence against women and hate speech. Another critical security development that I would like to underscore is the resurgence of hate crimes, in particular in the Haimbomo province. And this uptick is partially related to the militarization of the Azande militias known as AAKG. This is a serious threat, and the solution needs to be found to this soon, because otherwise the situation will further deteriorate. Meanwhile, MINUSCA continues its various efforts to help resolve this issue. And the police component is participating in this. We, last week, for example, detached as a matter of urgency an FPU detachment to help bring down tensions related to this phenomenon in Obo. Another crucial security issue currently in Central Africa is the recurrent issue of violence having to do with transhumans. MINUSCA is making many an effort to help Central Africa create conditions which are conducive to peaceful and prosperous transhumans. And in this context, the police component is aiding the ISF to deploy specialized units so as to prevent violence related to transhumans. MINUSCA has offered to the ISF our technical and logistical support of a significant volume. We also put forward a plan that could help the ISF contribute towards a more calm transhumans in the long term. Now, when it comes to UNPOL priorities, mainly they have to do with the protection of civilians. This is how UNPOL is ready to effectively support security during the elections and help ensure that the people are not impacted during this period. This will be done in an integrated fashion together with the force and the civilian component of MINUSCA. Integration is therefore a very high priority for the mission, and in this regard, UNPOL continue deploying individual police officers, IPOs, into all of the MINUSCA bases, and it's redeploying a number of units from the capital towards the provinces. And this is done together with the decentralization of the mission. This is accompanied with a reconfiguration of UN Police so as to enable us to have a greater effectiveness and a better integration. Our priority also have to do with the extension of the state authority, and there UNPOL is putting together gendarmerie brigades and police stations in far-flung areas such as Amdafok and Bambuti. They are on the border with Sudan and South Sudan, respectively. This will allow us at the same time to contribute to the mission plan, which consists of helping the Central Africa as they try to better manage their border areas. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let me now turn to the challenges we encounter as we implement our mandate. The main challenge having to do with how difficult it is to get access to all the areas for intervention. We're very grateful for having received a C-130 plane, and it's providing a great deal of help to the mission. But this C-130 plane cannot have access everywhere in the area, and therefore we still have the inaccessibility challenge with us. For example, the mission decided in December 2024 to have an ambition plan for the stabilization of the Yade region. It's in northwest of the country, and this region is bordering Chad and Cameroon. For a long time, this region was a sanctuary for armed groups which are committing all kinds of violations against the civilians. UNPOL will participate in this operation with the 3 foreign police units. However, the operation has not yet started because the roads are very difficult and are now being worked upon by MINUSCA. In addition to the difficulty of going by road, we need to add to that the fact of devices in certain areas, and this makes the issue of accessibility even worse. Another sizable challenge is sometimes inadequate participation in our work of our national partners in joint operations or in the projects conducted by MINUSCA. And this has to do mainly with the lack of logistical means, but this also limits the impact of our efforts as a mission. Mr. President, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, I would like to point out that there are recent developments which affect security in Central Africa, and MINUSCA is trying to react adequately to that despite the challenges we encounter. These challenges will not stop us from continue pursuing our priorities and implement our mission. I thank you for your attention.
I thank Mr. Bizimungu for his briefing. Now I give the floor to Ms. Mingzhu Xu.
Mr. President, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am deeply honored and proud to appear before this body to present work of the police component in the United Nations Peacekeeping Force in Cyprus. It was 61 years ago that this Council adopted Resolution 186 to establish a peacekeeping mission to control the intercommunal violence between Cyprus. AMPO has been a part of this effort since its inception. As one of the longest-running active missions, we have consistently upheld efforts to prevent the recurrence of conflict, contribute to maintenance of law and order, and facilitate a return to normal conditions, though our work has changed as the conflict has evolved. Over the years, authorized civilian activities within the buffer zone have expanded significantly. This includes bicommunal events, support activities, farming, grazing, pilgrimages, and other civilian activities that require mission support. AMPO remains vigilant in safeguarding the buffer zone and facilitating the civilian activities in accordance with UN regulations. Since 2003, the AMPO force is composed of 69 men and women. Our 69 men and women. Our mandated activities has grown exponentially. AMPO embrace integrated mission approach with military and civilian components, aligning political strategies, mind size, and capabilities to deliver in unified manner. Over time, especially in the last 5 years, UNFICYP AMPO's role has expanded beyond monitoring and reporting. Recognizing prevention as a cornerstone, current tasks include data-driven deployment, liaising with and existing police services on both sides in addressing criminal offenses enclosed by the buffer zone as appropriately. Moreover, duties include overseeing crossing points, accessing and supporting the issuance of authorization for civilian activities, facilitation of the information exchange activities with the 2 joint contact rooms, escorting and facilitating access to public service in the buffer zone, and delivering of humanitarian assistance to community isolated across the divide in the support of a civil affairs section. But our most important role is conflict prevention. Every day, AMPO officers engage with multitude of actors in the buffer zone, employing community-oriented policing to diffuse tensions, broker compromises, and generally keep the peace. The Women, Peace, and Security agenda remains core to AMPO's efforts, as outlined in its Gender Action Plan. One of its key objectives was to achieve 50-50 gender parity in representation by 2025. I am pleased to report that we just reached 48%, well exceeding the global ample target of 25%. The police component presents its expert input to MINUSCA integrated briefings and contributes to common situation awareness, taking part in cross-component coordination mechanism at headquarters and sector levels. Technology is the key to boosting the performance of the police component, including CCTVs, dashboard cameras, and tools provided by fully implemented situational awareness dual-barrel enterprise SAGE, UNFICYP, utilizing the institutional memory available to plan and provide data-driven guidance to officers on the ground. Following the rise in authorized activity within the buffer zone, civilian incidents have also increased over the past 5 years, while criminal activity have remained stable. Specifically, comparing 2024 with 2023, civilian incidents increased by more than 100%, while criminal incidents decreased by 5.1% due to effective mechanism of cooperation in joint contact rooms in Nicosia and Pila, and efficient communication with both law enforcement agencies. This conjuncture required a tailored impulse response, involving device general, targeted and joint patrol in buffer zone hotspot to deal with 333 criminal and 3,897 civilian incidents in 2024. Notwithstanding the long-standing political stalemate within its area of responsibility, AMPO has been actively engaging in trust-building activity with respect to law enforcement issues. For instance, the Bicommunal Technical Committee on Crime and Criminal Matters established 2 joint contact rooms to enhance cooperation between the Republic of Cyprus Police and the Turkish Separate Police. Through this essential channel, a total of 487 pieces of information were exchanged between the law enforcement agencies in 2024 on the wide range of topics: wanted persons, crime against property, life, economic and financial order, missing person, etc. AMPO also facilitated the total of 13 handovers that were conducted from north to the ROC, including 2 high-profile internationally wanted suspects, one for terrorism, the other for arms trafficking. With a focus on maintaining law and order, AMPO provided escorts for CIPO and TCP on 147 occasions within the buffer zone, facilitating investigations, first respond operations, and other police-related activities. A total of 720 liaisons were conducted with CIPO and 235 with TCP. These overall circumstances bring dynamic challenges that test missions' adaptability. Although MINUSCA has no protection of a civilian mandate, the mission in support of UNHCR was obliged to respond to the Republic of Cyprus pushbacks of asylum seekers between May and November 2024, which resulted in a total of 142 persons, including 35 children as young as 9 months old, being stranded in the buffer zone, housed in 2 de facto temporary humanitarian camps. Mr. President, Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I have demonstrated significant potential of UN police, even with a lean component like the one in Cyprus, to strengthen peacekeeping missions and advance the Action for Peacekeeping Plus strategy. This is particularly achievable through close cooperation and integration with other mission components, leveraging our respective strengths to support one another. MINUSCA AMPO is dedicated to efficiency, efficacy and seamless multi-component integration, striving to maximize outcomes with available resources. This commitment is reinforced using technology to enhance operational capability and by promoting the full, equal, and meaningful participation of women in the mission. I would like to express my gratitude to the 15 police contributing countries that form the backbone of UNFICYP AMPO, as I urge member states to continue to supporting this vital international peace effort by contributing their skilled officers. Please accept my deepest gratitude for your kind attention. Thank you.
我感谢许明
I thank Ms. Xu for her briefing. Now, I shall give the floor to those council members who wish to make a statement.
Give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. And for their comprehensive briefings, I'd like to thank Undersecretary General Lacroix, UN Police Advisor Shakar, MINUSCA Police Commissioner Christoph Bizimungu, and UNFICYP Senior Police Advisor Minggu Zhu. UN police extensively contribute to peacekeeping by supporting member states, where mandated, in conflict, post-conflict, and crisis situations through efficient engagement that serves and protects the population. UN police and peacekeeping operations are a cost-effective way for international burden sharing, and the UN Secretariat increasingly recognizes them as being central to the success of UN PKOs. Controlling civil disorder, border policing, training and mentoring host country police, protecting civilians, and institutionalizing the rule of law are just some of the ways UN police contribute to missions. As put forward in the latest independent study on the future of peacekeeping, peacekeeping must adapt. UNPOL must also adapt as a critical piece of the peacekeeping puzzle. One helpful adaptation would be to enable more effective integration of UNPOL perspectives and equities in decision-making processes at both UN headquarters and at the mission level. This integration would strengthen strategic and operational mission planning conversations, which would have important planning and resource implications, including helping to ensure the recruitment of UNPOL personnel is centered more on mission-specific needs and skill sets. Another helpful adaptation could be to extend UNPOL rotation schedules as part of an effort to strengthen some of its institutional structures at the headquarters level. Longer rotations would also support the development of critical local knowledge and relationships, key to the effective mentoring and capacity building of local police in UN peacekeeping contexts. This could also help address the issue of the demand for UN police officers and formed police units outpacing the number of police officers contributing states are willing and able to deploy. In addition, training must match the growing complexity of policing. Member states must prepare police with specialized training, especially in critical areas such as conducting forensic investigations, including digital forensics, and addressing organized crime. At the same time, it's vital to leverage digital technologies to enhance UNPOL and broader peacekeeping effectiveness, improve mandate delivery, and analyze data to develop evidence-based approaches. In closing, Mr. President, UNPOL continues to show the capacity and willingness to innovate to meet new and emerging challenges, and it must continue to uphold high standards of ethical conduct to be able to effectively bridge the gap between missions, host state law enforcement, and local communities. Member states, missions, and the UN Secretariat should work together to meet UNPOL's growing needs and rising expectations for its critical role in UN peacekeeping. And with that, I thank you, Mr. President.
我感谢
and the head of the MINUSCA police component, Mr. Christoph Bizimungu, and Ms. Mingju Yu, Senior Police Advisor, for their statements. I'd like to begin by paying a heartfelt tribute to the work of these women and men, police officers and gendarmes, currently deployed in the field in sometimes very difficult security conditions, who work to contribute to maintaining peace and protecting civilian populations. I also pay tribute to all member states who participate in United Nations Police and to the memory of members of the UNPOL who have lost their lives during their mission. I'll be covering 2 points. Firstly, United Nations Police, UNPOL, has a particular responsibility in mandate implementation. Acting in an integrated manner, United Nations Police intervenes at the crossroads of missions undertaken by military and civilian components. Committed to building and developing the capacities of a state's domestic security forces, United Nations Police play a decisive role to help authorities to ensure that their security sector reform is a success. In mandates involving civilian protection, domestic security missions par excellence, the police component must be able to play a specific role and act across the spectrum of their powers with the necessary resources. To successfully carry out the missions entrusted to them in contexts, it's essential for United Nations Police to have appropriate capacities in planning, force generation, crisis management, and operational management. They must be more efficient, more effective, and more well-versed in the needs of their populations. That's the purpose of the Action for Peacekeeping initiative and its implementing strategy A4P+, as well as the Pact for the Future signed last September. France supports these efforts to ensure that peacekeeping is more effective and able to meet current and future challenges. Where the security situation allows, United Nations Police must play their full role in community policing. In this context, they must particularly continue their efforts in raising awareness on combating sexual exploitation and abuse, as well as building the capacity of local police to address the needs of the victims of such violence. We must also bear in mind the increasing responsibility on UN police in supporting the transition phases of peacekeeping operations. This work must be carried out gradually, including through capacity building to promote lasting peace after the withdrawal of UN operations. President, I'll move on to my second point. The role of women is essential to ensure the success of United Nations Police. United Nations Police must continue to tirelessly promote the role of women among their ranks. France pays tribute to the efforts made here and is contributing to them. United Nations Police have exceeded their targets in their strategy for uniformed staff parity, and these results must be consolidated over the long term. Women are key actors in conflict settlement. The recent joint initiative undertaken by member states with UN Women, called the High-Level Network for Gender-Responsive Policing, has further improved the integration of women within domestic security forces. France supports this initiative and stands ready to share its good practices. Mr. President, to conclude, the women and men serving within United Nations Police deserve our support and respect. They have a tangible impact on people's daily lives. It's essential to recognize this and to publicize it. In light of the continued risks of disinformation, efforts must be continued to better communicate and to explain the role of United Nations Police on the ground where they're deployed. France will continue to support the UN Police's contribution to peacekeeping operations. Thank you.
感谢法国。
I thank the representative of France. I now give the floor to the representative of the United Kingdom.
To Under-Secretary General Lacroix and to the three UN police representatives for their very helpful briefings. Let me start by recognising the contributions and sacrifices of the 6,100 UN police women and men currently deployed across 12 missions worldwide. As we've heard, UNPOL's role is fundamental to the successful delivery of the Action for Peacekeeping Plus initiative, in supporting and advising countries in crisis, conflict and post-conflict situations, in preventing crime, protecting life and property, and in maintaining public order and safety. In particular, we support UNPOL's vital work to protect civilians and maintain public safety, with full respect for the rule of law and international human rights law, contributing to more responsive and accountable policing by host nations. The UK also continues to champion the principles of the landmark Women, Peace and Security Resolution 1325 on this, its 25th year. And we are pleased to support, in collaboration with the UN Institute for Training and Research and police contributing countries, gender-responsive courses and training, including for sexual and gender-based violence investigations and police logistics. As we look to the future, we must ensure UN policing has the capabilities it needs to effectively deliver mandates and tackle emerging challenges. This includes ensuring effective policing structures within the wider UN peacekeeping architecture, bringing in specialist expertise and, critically, making best use of new technologies. In conclusion, the United Kingdom remains committed to supporting UNPOL in line with the principles of Action for Peacekeeping Plus and to continuing to work together to ensure they contribute positively to peace and security around the world. Thank you.
感谢
We thank the Police Commission of the United Nations Multidimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in the Central African Republic, Mr. Bizimunga, to Ms. Minguzu, Senior Police Advisor in UNFICYP, and the United Nations Police Advisor Faisal Shankar. We are grateful to them for the assessments we've heard. And through you, we would like to thank all of the police peacekeepers who are valiantly discharging their duty to maintain peace and security in difficult conflict situations. We honor the memory of all of the blue helmets who fell in the line of duty. Police plays a special role in the life of any state. It is the policemen and women who uphold law and order, protect us from criminals, and create conditions for secure life and development. And therefore, the effective work of national law enforcement, the trust that the people place in them, are a good indicator of a general of a country. The police components have a unique place in the UN peacekeeping efforts. The blue helmets are, in fact, the face of the UN. With the locals on a daily basis, they help in forming the national law enforcement bodies and in fighting crime. In those countries which host peacekeeping operations, the UN is associated not with the headquarters far away in New York, and not with Security Council or General Assembly resolutions abstract for most people, but with the police peacekeepers who are patrolling the city streets and who know firsthand what issues the locals are encountering. So as to keep and be equal to the trust of the host countries, the missions should receive the best of the best who have gone through rigorous selection and having all the necessary skills. My country is proud of the fact that since 1992, more than 700 staff from the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Russia served as police peacekeepers. Today, Russian nationals are serving in missions in South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Cyprus and in the Abyei region. We're pleased to say that amongst the UNFICYP policemen who were awarded the In the Service of Peace Service Medal last November, 3 of our nationals also figured. The special representative of Secretary General Cyprus and head of Cyprus, Colin Stewart, highly appreciated their contribution to the work and noted their professionalism and the high level of their training. Ms. Minjusu today have already spoke of the important role played by the police contingent on UNFICYP in international efforts to maintain stability on the island. Officers from 15 countries participate actively in buffer area patrols on the island, ensuring law and order and security for all of its people. We are convinced that their presence help build trust between Cypriot communities and helps create conditions for their peaceful coexistence. It is notable that almost half of those serving amongst the police contingent are women. I would like to separately point out the role played by the police component of MINUSCA, which was covered in the briefing we've heard today by Mr. Bizimungu. 3,000 police, first of all, from African countries are discharging their duty valiantly as they support the civilians and maintain law and order. The blue helmets of the mission also contribute significantly with the security sector reform and CAR. They trained hundreds of people in Central Africa, law enforcement and police. They helped ensuring the law enforcement bodies work effectively. They helped restore police infrastructure. We also separately point out the work the mission to help develop the penitentiary system in the Central African Republic. This is a very important area of work. And this is the area where the national authorities are still facing serious challenges, and they're first and foremost administrative and budgetary in nature. What is important here is that Bangui highly appreciates the efforts made by the police component made by the mission and advocates their continuation. And this is the best manifestation of the accomplishments of the MINUSCA Blue Helmets. Mr. President, what is being done by the UN police is multifaceted and, depending on the mandate, ranges from limited advisory assistance to the national law enforcement to temporary ensuring the public order using their own forces alone. No matter what the future of peacekeeping operations, we have no doubt that there will be a demand for police assistance in one way or another. The gauge of success, as shown by the examples I quoted here, is through having a constructive and trusting relationship with the host country and taking their host country's priorities into account. The goal here is to leave behind the kind of a law enforcement system that does not need any kind of external assistance. And in order to get there, what needs to happen already during the peacekeeping mission presence, the mission needs to take into account specific conditions in the country, and the work needs to be such that the outcome is sustainable and lasting. We do support the increased participation of women in UN peacekeeping. Practice has shown that it's frequently easier for women to have an effective communication with the local people, and in some ethnic and religious contexts, they play a role which is irreplaceable. At the same time, we do not think it's useful to strive for percentage-expressed gender indicators. What should be a cornerstone here is an effective implementation of the mandate and also take into account the conditions of deployment and the security situation. We also would like to recall here that it's important to strictly uphold the principle of wide geographic representation when women are being sent to UN peacekeeping, including for leadership positions. Mr. President, the Russian Federation is a country which contributes police components, and we are trying to increase our contribution to UN peacekeeping and send people into missions which have the appropriate skills. We contribute also through training of UN police, including foreigners. Since 2002, we have been using a UN-certified peacekeeping training center under the Ministry of Internal Affairs of Russia in the town of Domodedovo, and there we trained more than 300 people from more than 50 countries across the world. Our country has a unique experience in professionally training of blue helmets, and we're ready to share that experience. Russia will continue contributing to the work of police peacekeepers. I thank you for your attention.
I thank the representative of the Russian Federation for the statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of China. I would like to thank USG Mr. Lacroix, Police Commissioner Mr. Bizimungu, and Police Advisor Mr. Shakha for their briefings. I'm particularly pleased to welcome the participation and briefing of Senior Police Advisor Ms. Minzhu Xu, a female peacekeeper from China. UN Police is an important component of UN PKOs. China commends UN Police for its positive contributions to the maintenance of international peace and stability, and supports its continued endeavors and success. I wish to share 3 points. First, constantly optimizing mandates for UN police. Based on specific needs of PKOs, the Security Council should continue to incorporate the tasks of UN police into mission mandates, give full play to UN police's functional advantages in protecting civilians, maintaining order, preventing conflicts, and rebuilding local law enforcement capabilities, among others. Police mandates should be continuously optimized based on early experience to align conditions of host countries, needs of peace processes, and the capacities of PCCs, and strive to be clear, feasible, and focus on priorities. Secondly, constantly upgrading capacity building of UN police. As new technologies are continuously emerging, training provided by PCCs and missions should keep pace with the times to ensure expertise and skill set of every police officer can effectively respond to circumstances. On the one hand, dividends of science and technology should be harnessed to enhance the abilities for information collection and analysis, situation assessment, and early warning of risks. On the other hand, measures should be taken to guard against information leak, data misuse, and other security risks of science and technology. Thirdly, constantly strengthening the safety and security of UN police. Given UN police's complex working environment and highly risky tasks, the Secretariat should draw up detailed and thorough safety and security rules to meet the challenges. Coordination with PCCs and countries concerned should be strengthened to enhance early warning capabilities and internal information sharing, and to ensure materials and measures for safety and security, protection, and medical purposes are in place, so as to comprehensively improve safety and security. PCCs should be encouraged to use new technologies and equipment to enhance their safety and security capabilities. The statement of unit requirement should adapt to changing circumstances and missions. Colleagues, 2025 marks the 25th anniversary of Chinese police participation in UN PKOs. Over the past 25 years, we have successfully sent more than 2,700 police officers to 18 UN PKOs and UN headquarters, making important contributions to restoring peace and stability in host countries and regions, protecting local population, and advancing reconstruction of justice. In this process, 8 Chinese police officers have made the ultimate sacrifice for UN peacekeeping. China took the lead to create the standby formed police unit in 2016. The unit has been continuously listed at the rapid deployment level by the UN Peacekeeping Capability Readiness System. Chinese police have actively carried out training of foreign police and technical exchanges with them. It has provided training in policing skills to nearly 2,000 police officers from 76 countries and regions, and helped PCCs and host countries to strengthen their law enforcement capacity building. China has provided sustained funding support for UN police-related projects through the China-UN Peace and Development Trust Fund. Going forward, China will actively implement the global security initiative put forward by President Xi Jinping, support the UN in strengthening the work of UN police, and continue to play an important role in maintaining international peace and security. I resume my function as President of the Council. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.